And now, a word from our sponsors.
Because football is built on an economic model of fairness and opportunity, and baseball is built on a model where the rich always win and the poor usually have no chance.
Right there.
I hope you're as committed to safe sex as you are those abs.
I know you're all about that abstinence thing, you know, but I mean, come on, B. Palin, are you serious? Like, you're not gonna hook up with, like, before you're married? For real?
For real.
For real, for real?
Finally, Americans can stop teaching their kids the birds and the bees.
That's right, children are now being taught abstinence only, which is going to help alleviate our country's prior problems of STDs, teen pregnancies, the welfare system, and the high rates of uninsurance.
A recent national study concluded that no evidence exists that abstinence programs delay the initiation of sex or reduce the number of sexual partners among teens. This comes on the heels of a long-awaited congressional report released in April that also found that teaching abstinence didn't decrease the likelihood that teens would have sex.
Actually, if you look at the study, what it reveals is that you cannot present abstinence education one time to young teens and expect it to have a stick factor. It has to be continued and reinforced throughout their difficult adolescent years.
Those in Congress who know these programs don't work are using them as bait to trade with hardcore conservatives who would like them to work. The taxpayers are stuck with a nearly $200 million bill for it.
In other news, Utah Governor Gary Herbert recently vetoed the controversial HB 363 bill, which would have banned sexual education from being taught in Utah public schools. Herbert stated that the bill would have limited the rights of Utah parents in choosing how their children learn about sex.
Blake, I don't know why parents are so opposed to this abstinence-only education. My parents were abstinent their entire lives, and I turned out just fine.
I'm adopted, and my biological mother was 17, and so was my biological father. She was 7.5 months pregnant when she decided to go to Planned Parenthood, which is the largest abortion provider in the world, and they counseled her to have a late-term saline abortion for a dead baby within 24 hours, and to everyone's great shock and surprise, I didn't arrive dead, but alive.
The House passed a bill to eliminate our country's family planning program and to stop Planned Parenthood health centers from receiving any federal money to provide life-saving preventative care.
Imagine the government giving hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars every year to a company that does this. It does, only they're not bunnies. Receiving over $300 million of your tax dollars every year, Planned Parenthood does this nearly 1,000 times a day. Tell Congress, it's time to stop Planned Parenthood's tax funding.
That means no money for cervical cancer screenings and breast exams. No money for testing and treatment of STDs, not even testing for HIV. No money for birth control. Every year, Planned Parenthood provides this essential care to millions of women, men, and teens. For many people, especially those with low incomes, Planned Parenthood is their only source of health care. Let your members of Congress know where you stand.
Newsflash, Planned Parenthood has recently come under fire from groups like the American Life League, which wish to cut government funding from the programs which they believe increases underage sex and the spread of disease.
That's right. These anti-Planned Parenthood groups have come together to draft a bill which would ban the government from funding any of these programs and instead put the money towards the hit MTV show 16 and Pregnant.
What does it say about the college co-ed Susan Fluke, who goes before a congressional committee and essentially says that she must be paid to have sex? What does that make her? It makes her a slut, right? Makes her a prostitute. She wants to be paid to have sex.
Carly was meeting with a bunch of reporters and talked about it being unfair that insurance companies cover Viagra but not birth control, and
I certainly do not want to discuss that issue.
The woman comes forth with this, frankly, hilarious claim that she's having so much sex, and her buddies with her, that she can't afford it.
You voted against.
I don't know what I
voted against coverage of birth control, forcing health insurance companies to cover birth control in the past. Is that still your position?
look at my voting record on it, but I have. I don't recall the vote right now, but I'll be glad to look at it and get back to you as to why I don't.
I guess her statement was that it was unfair that health insurance companies cover Viagra but not birth control. Do you have an opinion on that?
I like guys who have a little bit fat, a little bit hairy back. I like guys who watch a lot of football and go out with the boys. This is good thing.
You know that 69% of primetime TV programs have scenes of alcohol use?
That's about 4 season hours. And 1 week, if Kavika watches 1 hour of TV a day, she'll see this many pictures of alcohol.
If I don't get flowers, I'm not like, oh, por mí, I don't get flowers. This is so silly. I know they sometimes go to the striptease, but it's okay. I'm not jealous.
License, registration, proof of insurance immediately available. Never admit to drinking. Never tell the officer you've been to a bar or to a restaurant.
Escort brings together the latest radar detection and GPS technologies to give you the industry-leading Passport 9500iX and the all-new Passport IQ, the world's first and only all-in-one driving companion, protecting you from unwanted tickets.
Of drinking and driving, something Loli Beckles Palomares knows firsthand. Last May, a drunk driver killed her 7-year-old son, Joshua.
Well, if I just sit home and cry every day like I do in the middle of the night, it's not enough. And that's why I'm here today, to tell people to please, please, if you're going to drink, call a taxi cab. If you're going to drink at your house, great. Buy all the alcohol you want, but stay home.
He can do whatever he wants. I mean, I don't care.
The girlfriend. Jim Beam, the bourbon.
I don't know about that last ad, Blake. I've been drinking bourbon since I was 12 years old, and my girlfriend doesn't look anything like that.
Well, Luke, was it the bourbon?
The Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Never take a roadside test. Never take a preliminary breath test. These tests are voluntary. Refuse on advice of counsel.
And remember, folks, if you do drink and drive, do the responsible thing and just don't admit it.
It's the right thing to do. Tonight's top story is about cosmetic surgery, a practice which has been increasing in popularity as it has been linked to an increase in self-awareness, self-perception, and advancement in the job field.
That's right. And there's a new study out which directly correlates the increase in breast implants to a decrease in divorce rates around the country.
It's Britney, bitch.
Is clinically proven to help reduce your body fat and weight.
Feel charming, oh so charming. It's alarming how charming I feel, and so pretty that I hardly can believe I'm real.
sedation. She'd be able to talk if you ask her to. Alright, so now's the fun part. Now we're going to do the liposuction. This is power-assisted liposuction. There's lots of ways you can do liposuction.
Such a pretty face, such a pretty dress, such a pretty smile, such a pretty me.
The state Senate recently passed a bill that could help make plastic surgery a little safer. And it was passed on the anniversary of Donda West's death. She is the mother of singer Kanye West, and she died unexpectedly after undergoing plastic surgery.
So that we can get some good skin retraction. But in order to stay very close to the skin with superficial liposuction, we need a real small cannula.
Under a new law, patients undergoing elective plastic surgery must get medical clearance first, a law Shaw says plastic surgeons everywhere had been hoping for.
It brings a legitimacy to what we're doing.
I do a little bit on the other side. And again, this is lidocaine with epinephrine. The lidocaine makes it so it doesn't hurt. The epinephrine makes it so it doesn't bleed and minimizes bruising. And that's the
This just in, taking a huge chunk out of the plastic surgery industry's revenue is Photoshop. The digital enhancement giant now makes it much more easy for you to remove more of your flaws with much less downtime than plastic surgery.
Sounds good to me, Luke.
Football is more like the Democratic philosophy. Democrats don't want to eliminate capitalism or competition, but they would like it if some kids didn't have to go to a crummy school in a rotten neighborhood.
Sanford Police Department, lines being recorded.
Hey, we've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious guy. This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. It's raining, and he's just walking around looking about.
Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He looks black.
Did you see what he was wearing?
Yeah, a dark hoodie, like a gray hoodie, and...
Martin was shot in the chest by this man, George Zimmerman, a decade older, 45 kilos heavier. Zimmerman, a self-described neighborhood watchman, called the police after he spotted Martin walking in the neighborhood.
Mr. Zimmerman has made the statement of self-defense. Until we can establish probable cause to dispute that, we don't have the grounds to arrest him.
Democrats don't want to eliminate capitalism or competition, but they would like it if some kids didn't have to go to a crummy school in a rotten neighborhood, while others get to go to a great school, and their dad gets them into Harvard. Because when that happens, achieving the American dream is easy for some and just a fantasy for others.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Okay.
That's why the NFL literally shares the wealth. TV is their biggest source of revenue, and they put it all in a big commie pot and split it 32 ways. Because they don't want anyone to fall too far behind. That's why the team that wins the Super Bowl in the next draft picks last.
At an NAACP town hall at a church in the city's predominantly black Goldsboro neighborhood Wednesday, that mistrust boiled over, as residents describe past incidents they say show a pattern.
Baseball, on the other hand, is exactly like the Republicans, and I don't just mean it's incredibly boring.
This just in, the New York Yankee organization is suing Bill Maher for his comments comparing baseball to the Republican Party and for saying baseball is incredibly boring. The lawsuit is demanding that Maher pay the organization over $600 billion in damages.
That's right, and when confronted about the ridiculous amount of money, Yankee executives commented, "A lot of money? You should have seen what we paid A-Rod last year."
I mean, their economic theory is every man for himself. The small market Pittsburgh Steelers go to the Super Bowl more than anybody. But the Pittsburgh Pirates?
So many incidents. The community as a whole feel like we don't have fair treatment. Our voices are not heard.
Sanford Mayor Jeff Triplett attended Wednesday's town hall after traveling to Washington, D.C. with a delegation to urge the Justice Department to review Trayvon Martin's case, including why police failed to arrest the shooter, George Zimmerman.
In other news, researchers who wish to remain anonymous have found a direct link between gang violence and hoodies.
That's right, Blake. Research now confirms that every minority who is wearing a hoodie is somehow related to a gang and should be reported immediately to the authorities.
For more on this story, we turn you over to Geraldo Rivera.
But I am urging the parents of Black and Latino youngsters particularly to not let their children go out wearing hoodies. I think the hoodie is as much responsible for Trayvon Martin's death as George Zimmerman.
Their payroll is $40 million. The Yankees is $206 million. The Pirates have about as much chance as getting to the playoffs as a poor black teenager from Newark has of becoming the CEO of Halliburton.
Juliet, when you see a kid walking down the street, particularly a dark-skinned kid like my son Cruz, who I constantly yelled at when he was going out wearing a damn hoodie or those pants around his ankles, take that hood off. People look at you and what do they think? What's the instant identification? What's the instant association? It's those crime scene surveillance tapes. Every time you see someone sticking up a 7-Eleven, the kid's wearing a hoodie.
Outside the town hall, a group of young men from a local church wore Skittles candy boxes around their necks to signal their fear that they too could become victims of racial profiling, just like Trayvon.
That's why people stop going to Pirate games in May. Because if you're not in the game, you become indifferent to the fate of the game and maybe even get bitter. That's what's happening to the middle class in America.
It's scary because I'm 16 and I wouldn't want to walk down the street and get shot just walking down the street trying to get snacks from my brother. I mean, it's not right.
This case speaks globally because a generation of black and brown men globally have been criminalized.
So you kind of have to laugh that the same angry white males who hate Obama because he's redistributing wealth just love football, a sport that succeeds because it does just that.
He's got his hand in his waistband. And he's a black male.
Okay. How old would you say he
He's
was?
got a button on his shirt. Late teens.
Late teens, okay.
Mm-hmm. Something's wrong with him. Yeah.
Until next time, I'm Luke Donohue.
And I'm Blake Clark, signing off.
And now, a word from our sponsors.